in beautiful Barbados.
Very good afternoon. I'm Lisa Broom with the CBC News Break. The Barbados Union of Teachers is reporting satisfactory progress on wages talks with government. This from General Secretary of the Union, Herbert Gittins. He was speaking at a church service to mark the start of the Union's week of activities at the Family Church at Alexandra School in St. Peter yesterday.
The salary negotiations for teachers and other public officers began under the umbrella body of C2SAB, and that started with the Ministry of the Civil Service. Those talks were very cordial, and we are hopeful of a positive outcome as these negotiations continue, given that there is some growth happening in the economy.
Mr. Gittins acknowledges that the BUT's relationship with its parent ministry continues to be strained over the docking of teachers' pay for attending union meetings during teaching time.
The union is of the view that the action should not have happened since it has far-reaching consequences for the trade union movement as well as other reasons associated with the action. The union has taken this matter as far as the Prime Minister and has not yet had a resolution to date. We will, however, continue to agitate for teachers and continue the struggle started by the late John Cumberbatch and others.
The BUT General Secretary has also pledged to continue working to improve the terms and conditions of teachers across the island. And after successfully getting just over 400 teachers in the primary schools appointed permanently to the civil service, Mr. Gittins says the union is holding Finance Minister Chris Sinclair to his promise that all public servants with more than 3 years service will be appointed. The Queen Elizabeth Hospital cannot afford to pay the full cost of consultants. This is according to Chief Executive Officer Dr. Dexter James. His comments come amid concerns about the amount of private work being undertaken at the QEH. Dr. James says they are committed to serving the public.
The board and management is responsible for ensuring that the public's interest in that arrangement is preserved, and therefore we have established a ratio of 75-25 as what we consider to be an acceptable ratio for us. In other words, 75% of all the surgeries done at the hospital must be public work, and only 25% should be private work. So from this slide, you will see that we've been able to maintain the ratio over the last 3 years. So this is an issue that we have to address. We address almost on a daily basis.
Dr. James was speaking at the recent public accountability meeting at the hospital, while at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Centre. He made it clear that despite the criticism, the QEH still commands a great level of respect in neighbouring islands it serves. Dr. James says several areas of opportunities still exist in selected areas.
Those areas are cardiovascular services, ophthalmology services. They would like to for neurosurgery, and of course have access to our ICUs as and when required. So this is an area of opportunity that we need to explore and exploit, leveraging what we have, but at the same time not compromising the care to our resident population.
Healthcare providers are being reminded they have a responsibility to make clients aware of the resources available to them. This from Professor of Public Health at the Coastal Carolina University, Stephen Farsing. He was speaking at the Heart and Stroke Foundation's International Stroke Day workshop. He says getting the most from healthcare providers is a critical tool to help families care for loved ones recovering from brain injury or physical disability.
I believe we have a responsibility to teach our clients about what is available to them and for them based on what their needs are. Sometimes we get so caught up in things and we just do our job and we move forward. But as a professor, I work with a lot of students and I work with people all over the world. And I tend to sometimes I'll maybe talk too much because I feel like I want to give them as much information as I can. If somebody wants to be a physician, if somebody wants to be an occupational therapist, I will walk them through the process of how to go from a high school student to to becoming a master's level educated occupational therapist.
Well, showers of blessing rained down this morning as the Productivity Council became the latest entity to join the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation's Guardian of the Heritage Initiative. Chief Program Officer at the Council, Anthony Sobers, says the institution has been instrumental in transforming the economy of Barbados over the last 25 years. He says the Council jumped at the opportunity to get on board with the CBC's initiative, calling it innovative.
We really want to congratulate CBC once again on this initiative. I also recognize that perhaps in the next 50 years a lot of us will not be here, and we're very interested to enter that capsule so that people will recognize the work that we have put in terms of the individual at the Productivity Council, and that we perhaps will continue to help the Council transform Barbados and create that sort of positive productivity, efficiency and effective model that's critical to development and continued survival of our country.
His sentiments were shared by Productivity Officer Janelle Arthur.
As we examine the anatomy of our heritage, of which we all must be guardians, we realize that it's been characterized by industry, we realize it's been characterized by pride, we realize that feeding into those two elements would be leadership, great leadership, etc. Those are all tenets that productivity aptly represents.
A cultural icon, teacher and poet has donated copies of one of her books to the Young Women's Christian Association. Dr. Cynthia Wilson opened the doors of her home to the reading club of the YWCA and shares stories from her book entitled Stories for the Young and Young at Heart. She says she strongly believes children should read and be read to, and this was the reason for her donation. Dr. Wilson shared why she chose that particular title for the book.
When I wrote them, I thought I would call it Children's Stories. But then on rereading them, I realized that my sister, who is a grandmother, would love them. So I realized they weren't only for children, they were for people who were young at heart as well.
The reading club is held every Saturday at the YWCA's Deacons headquarters. President Tamita Griffith says the association is very happy for the donation.
This would come in handy for the coordinator, as Margaret Daniel, and her volunteers as additional reading resources to be used for the children, because we cater to children between the ages of 4 and 11 years old.
And the YWCA has over the years been using local celebrities to make reading more attractive for young people, and Mikey is one of them.
Anywhere that I can offer any kind of assistance and make reading, a little bit more fun, a little more up, a little more, cool for the kids at the reading club. I just come and read a few stories off and on, and encourage them and remind them how important learning to read and reading and education is.
Barbadians are being encouraged to retain their spirit of forgiveness. This from Rector of St. Philip Parish Church, Reverend Trevor O'Neill. He was speaking at a service for the church's 180th anniversary. Reverend O'Neill says at a time when revenge seems like the only way to respond to those who offend us, parents have the responsibility to teach the young ones forgiveness. Well, stay with us. We will have more news after this break.
Let me go.